Welcome back, people. Lateness is greatness. Welcome to the capital of W's. That's right, Chelsea on the winning road again to success. And there's no better way to dissect and embrace this victory than to have the man himself, Julien Laurens. Oh, beautiful stuff. How are you doing, sir? It's a pleasure.
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be with you on the show to discuss Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel, who I liked when he was in Paris. I have to be honest. I was a bit gutted when he left. I can understand why, but yeah, now he's one of yours, and I'm happy that things are going well because he's a really nice guy.
Fantastic. 100% he's one of us. And Joel as well. Thank you, brother, for setting this up. How are you doing? Welcome, bro.
I'm all right. I'm a bit jealous to not get the same intro as Julien. It's absolutely fine. We understand. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on with the both of you and discuss yesterday's game and Chelsea in general, because, as the most famous London club, I have, it's very important for me to see what's going on over there in Chelsea. So yeah, let's do it.
This is like proper spying on the rivals now.
Spying, of course, 100%.
And big up to the live chat as well. You guys are absolutely killing it. You're really excited to have a hard guest on today, and I can see why. You know what I'm saying? We have to get straight into it. What a game. I mean, tactically, it wasn't the most entertaining game. It wasn't end to end. It wasn't, it wasn't one of these massive games in terms of entertainment. But tactically, I thought it was brilliant. First of all, Julian, what did you make of Tuchel just on the sidelines? Because he's been very vocal in the last few games. Big change from Frank. He's pouring instructions onto the players time and time again. Obviously, he was at the stadium. Could you hear him?
Yeah, completely. And the thing at Spurs, you're sat quite close to the away bench or where they sat. And there's a few things. For example, as we know, he's big on recovering the ball as high as possible on the pitch. That press, the counter press as well. And every time Chelsea were losing the ball and trying to get it back, and whether it worked or not, he was clapping and encouraging, and he was like, "Yes, boys, yes, come on!" So, which is something that Klopp does a lot, for example. So you could see already the identity there. And then I think the communication has been very important. And for example, quite early on in the game, he called Hudson-Odoi, which again was playing in a different position to the wing-back position that we saw him play against Wolves and Burnley. This time he was almost playing as a striker in the front two, him and Werner, but they had to play really wide to be able to come inside with their runs. And I think at the beginning he struggled a bit, and he came to see Tuchel, and Tuchel said, no, stay wide. And you could see him doing the movement and the gesture, stay wide, and then I want you to come inside. And he was showing Hudson-Odoi, go this way, make your runs this way. And it's a new position for Callum, and he's still very young. But I think clearly Tuchel saw something in him at training, whether that's as a wing back, as a second striker, as a winger, wherever he's going to play him. But just, I think Hudson-Odoi needed a bit more adjustment in how to play. And Werner as well. Werner and Tuchel talk a lot during the game on the touchline yesterday, because I think we saw a bit more of what Werner can do in that position. I think this is a better position for him. And you saw in the second half when he had space that he could create danger in that position. And then Mason Mount was in a very Guardiola-esque position where he was a number 10, but also a false number 9, playing quite. And there was times where you had Hudson-Odoi on the right, Mount in the middle, and Werner on the left, and then Kovačić and Jorginho behind them, and the two wing backs. And I was like, wow, okay, this is Tuchel for you. I tweeted at the beginning of the Wolves game, his first game, I tweeted Chelsea meet Tuchel, because he had those two number 10s and the striker. This knew it was the wing backs and everything. And this is what he does. I think tactically he's a very, very good manager, very clever.
And he seems to adapt in game. I was very impressed with the way that he was able to. Well, we expected the two false 10s to play as they have in previous games as well, but he was able to adapt, and like you said, to create that overload in midfield. Spurs just couldn't cope. Every minute there was a man free, whether it be Mason Mount that was free in the 10 or Hudson-Odoi dropping off. They were very, very flexible in the way that they moved around the pitch. And there was always an overload. Building from the back with a free. There was no real opportunity for Spurs to get out. They didn't really press that hard anyway. And they weren't very, adventurous in their game plan. Joel, what did you make of that first half? Because I just thought this is this is Jose Mourinho World War II football here.
I couldn't believe it, man. This is what the guys over expressions and rants, they call it fossil football, man. It was dead old. didn't understand what was going on. I think it wasn't just the style of football that was negative, as what we've known Jose Mourinho to be of late. I think it was the lack of desire that was showing. The fear, that I could see within the players. You have players. I only played at semi-pro level and maybe academy level, but it's the basics that Jermaine Genius was talking about. Players are not showing for the ball. There's spaces in between, and you've got Ndombele and players that's what you call hiding. I've done it many times before when you're tired, when you're not confident, when you feel like, it's just not going that way. So you try to avoid it. You're jogging, you're moving and you're running around, but you're not actually being effective. So when there is a space that's free, whereas if you were 2-3-0 up or you're trying to go for the win, you go, yeah. The players are not passing the ball. They're playing it back to the goalkeeper. Players are not expanding, and you could see Højbjerg was trying to make things happen, but because of that, he's going deeper to get the ball. He's trying to take charge, but the players around him are not reacting to it. And I thought it was very, very sad, to be honest with you, because look, I'm going to put it like this, guys, and I'm choosing my words carefully, right? Jose Mourinho, for me, when he came to the country, was the best manager possibly in the world. I loved his charisma. I loved the team. I loved how players played for him. And I'll tell you what, if he had gone to Arsenal straight after the Man United job, I would have accepted him, had him with open arms. But what I saw yesterday scared me, because I thought to myself, has the main man lost a bit of his spark? And I get worried that he does, because, without Kane there, they looked completely different. And normally they don't look that bad when he's not there, because Son steps up. But yesterday, not happy at all.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously lost Kane. They had no, that's been their main outlet for chance creation this season. A lot of assists for Son. Ndombele played higher up, and we had a Højbjerg, Sissoko type pivot. But you spoke about Julian with Mason Mount. He was pivotal because he was getting in the half spaces, making the turns. The final product from Chelsea wasn't great, and we're going to get onto that very soon. The end product, not very efficient in taking their chances. I thought, like you said, the two strikers definitely were mobile in the fact that they were making the runs in the channels, coming inside as well. And I think Jorginho and Kovačić were absolutely brilliant. One of them have to be my man in the match, because the way that they were able to alleviate the press, the ball was coming into them at a good speed from Silva. He was popping the ball about really well. I thought Chelsea moved the ball very quickly. We spoke about them, maybe those size 2 footballs in training coming into fruition. So what did you make of just the way Chelsea set up in a shape-wise? I mean, was you impressed with the way that they were able to play the ball about despite not taking their chances?
Yeah, completely. I think you're right. The creating chances bit will be interesting, and we will have to discuss it a bit more, because I think you had 18 shots, only 2 on target. There was a lot of blocked that could have ended up on target for sure. Maybe even more threatening for Lloris. But yeah, for all the control that you had for 80 minutes, because the last 10 minutes were a bit more crazy and chaotic on Chelsea's part, and I think they were tired, which is completely understandable because they were still pressing in 75th minute. But yeah, creating chances with all that control, with all the ball possession, with all that movement would be interesting, because you're right, you need the final product to be a bit better. The last pass or the last cross, we saw Reece James in good positions, but the cross didn't really ended up in the right areas in the box. So this is something I think they will work on. But the control, I mean, even losing Thiago Silva quite early on, really, in the game, which I think is a big one. This is really the only negative point of night. But Christensen can play the ball from the back. If there's one thing that Christensen is really good at, is that he's a baller anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. But the control was really outstanding. The way they controlled the positioning on the pitch. I mean, again, you had someone in every little channel, whether it's the half space, the wings, centrally, Kovačić and Jorginho. And I'm a bit worried for my boy Kante. He came on and I loved him. But Jorginho and Kovačić play together. They understand each other so well. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure where N'Golo is going to fit, and if the other two keep playing like this, it might be hard for him to come back into the team. But I thought Mason Mount was great, and I said to Alex Goldberg, who we both know and we both like, Chelsea fans don't need to be worried. The youngsters are going to play if they deserve to play, whether that's Mason, Reece, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Abraham, any of them. If they deserve to play, they will play. And I think Tuchel, loves playing youngsters because they do exactly what he says, and he loves that. And that's where he really feels like he's a coach again. In Paris, I think he struggled with the idea of like, I'm not really a coach anymore. There's too much going on.
Politics.
Right now, I think he feels like this. I saw him yesterday after the game, and I hadn't seen him since the Old Trafford game, the United PSG game. He said, I haven't seen you since that game. I said, yeah, I wish you luck. And I'm here tonight and you win the big derby. So he went, yeah, you have to come to every game. But I could see in his eyes that, the eyes were sparkling. He was so happy to be there. And he said, like, I'm coaching tactically. I can do what I want. I can change before the game, during games. And I think that's what he wants to do. So I've got no doubt that tactically we might see something again different on Sunday, and he will have the flexibility that maybe Lampard didn't have or didn't know how to have, and certainly that Tuchel himself didn't have in Paris.
Yeah, and you've answered that question there brilliantly from my test merchant. Guys, keep your questions coming in. I'll definitely pop them up on screen and incorporate them in the conversation naturally when I can. Does Tuchel, love his job? Well, like you spoke about PSG, there was more maybe politics involved in terms of the big names, Neymar, Mbappe. Are they going to be willing to do the things that Tuchel asks of them? This Chelsea team is quite young, quite novice in the fact that they haven't won many trophies. There's a few outliers there with Thiago Silva, Kante, but most of this team is quite, young and new to this level in terms of even Ziyech stepping up, Kai Havertz stepping up to this level, Timo Werner the same, as well as the Cobham youngsters as well. You spoke about obviously Jorginho and Kova and obviously the Kante dilemma. I completely agree with you. I thought Jorginho and Kova were brilliant at escaping the press. They had a control about them in the game. They knew when to speed the game up. They knew when to slow it down. And I've said it earlier in the season, Kante at his best is better than those two because of what he can do. But the sheer relationship and chemistry that Kova and Jorginho have is stronger than when Kante comes in and he tries to strike the same relationship. It's just not quite there. You both would have noticed as the game went on, the ball was being funneled down the right-hand side for Chelsea in every attack. And it happened for the Burnley game as well. The left-hand side was mainly a decoy. It was Alonso kind of just being like an FBI agent, just sneaking at the back post. Don't watch me. Just I'll arrive later on and then we'll discuss in the box in the final third if he can get in, at the back post with the crosses. What have you made of Reece James? And obviously you spoke about the youngsters, they'll get their opportunities as well. It's not going to be, a lot of the British media did worry about youngsters getting involved under Tuchel. Obviously we've seen it at Dortmund, especially he's going to play young players. What did you make of Reece James and his future at right wing back? Because I personally thought he might play right centre back, but obviously he's used Azpilicueta there as well.
Yeah, and I think Azpilicueta has to be there simply because of his intelligence. His game intelligence is incredible. I mean, there's a point where it's in Chelsea's half, in the first half, and I don't know, the ball goes out, but Rudiger is in the wrong position, and Azpilicueta straight away said, "Okay, don't worry, I'm coming here, stay here, Thiago, go there." And it was just like it was Tuchel on the pitch. And also, on the ball, like we saw in his goal against Burnley, he sends where he has to run, where he goes. And I think it's remarkable. I like Frank. I like Lampard. I've got no problem. I liked him. We worked together at BT. But I did wonder why Azpilicueta was not played a little bit more because of that, because he can play right back, right wing back, centre back. He could even play sweeper. I think if you ask him, sweeper would be a really good position for him because of that intelligence. So, this is good. And then that means, okay, Reece James then plays wing back. Can he play wing back? He's certainly better defensively than Hudson-Odoi, who this is not what he doesn't. This is not what he does. He doesn't defend. And I think that as a wing back, Reece James, obviously, this hides a little bit more the mistakes that sometimes he would make as a right, because a bit like on the right, he's still young, he's still learning to defend. I think sometimes he relies a little bit too much on this incredible ability that he has physically and technically and his pace and all of that. And he hasn't worked enough on his position defensively. But wing back is fine. Wing back is absolutely fine. He's got Azpilicueta behind him, and then Thiago Silva behind Azpilicueta behind him, plus Jorginho, plus Kovačić. It's cool. And I think for me, the future for Reece James is certainly more as a wing back, if you ask me, than as a right back. So it was great. Again, decision making in the final third on his crossing has to improve, but we knew that. There's no problem. And I think it's very interesting to see why you use more the right-hand side than the left-hand side, because as you said, Marcos Alonso becomes almost another striker in the box, as we saw against Burnley. Even yesterday, there's a point in the second half where it should be a cross. in the far post for Marcos Alonso. The ball doesn't come, and Alonso goes mad. And he's like, I'm here. I'm so much bigger than Serge Aurier, for example, although Aurier is good in the air. But that ball should have come far post for Alonso to head it in. And I think clearly this is a pattern of play that they worked at training. Go on the right-hand side, and then Marcos Alonso comes in as almost another forward into the box.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works here. Azpilicueta, for me personally, again, you guys, I know you guys watch Chelsea more than I do, but when I see him, I think the issue was I just feel like his legs were going. When I would see him under Frank Lampard, I wasn't as impressed because I just thought to myself, I'm going back here games. I'll never forget going back FA Cup final. It wasn't the Azpilicueta that I knew as the years had gone. I mean, Maitland-Niles, all these guys would be running rings around him. I just, for me, obviously the intelligence is always going to be there. He's a great player, but when you're playing against some of these better players, when you come up against the Marcus Rashfords and you come up against, I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to handle it, just literally because I think physically he's not what he once was. I don't know what you think.
Go on, yeah, Julian, take it.
Yeah, I see your point, but his positioning is always perfect. So this is not someone who's going to be caught out of position like we see a lot in the current defending in the Premier League. Sorry, boys.
It's okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's not like what we normally see.
Yes, because his position is so good. This is not. I don't think he will ever be caught out of position or anything like this. And yeah, I understand you with the physicality, but again, in the back three, I've got no issue whatsoever of playing there.
I think long term, James will probably come into it more and more, but obviously at Chelsea this season, there's been a big issue in terms of the squad, the size of the squad, and I think he's incorporating. We talk about youth, but also getting those experienced players back in, like your Jorginhos, Rudigers, Azpilicuetas, just to give him that foundation and that base to build from in terms of squad harmony. So when he goes forward and he does try and go for the top four, he's got everyone pulling in the same direction. And of course, those are the big earners. They're the ones that you got to get on side as well if you're to pull this group together. Tactically, you spoke about Alonso and obviously James. They weren't wing backs. They were wingers. They were right up the pitch. It was almost a 3-2-5 at times. But I do want to get onto the media side of things because you both work in the media. Great presenters and hosts, and obviously Tuchel is a very charismatic character. He's very on the sidelines. He's given us all the energy that you could ever want in terms of analysing his mannerisms. In the press, he had a press conference before the game. They're asking him about pizza, spaghetti, wine, bread, whatever you name it, it's on the list. Joel, I'll start with you. What have you made from a presenting point of view? Just what have you made of Tuchel's character? Because, I mean, he must be a joy to interview if the opportunity comes, you know what I mean?
100%. He is very similar to a Klopp in that sense where he gives. He gives. It doesn't mean he's a clown. It doesn't mean, he's about jokes. We know how serious it is. What we like is when it's time to work, you can see that it's time to work. You can hear him at the side, even from the TV. You guys might not know, Julian. I could actually hear him when he's going, hey! Like you can tell he has that authority side to him where you think, I don't want to get on the wrong side of him. But at the same time, I saw him at the end. One thing that stood out to me specifically is the way he was talking to Rudiger. Rudiger was kind of like walking off. I don't know if you saw Matisse at the end of the match. He's kind of like walking off and gave him a big hug. Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'll be honest with you, just to steer off your question a little bit, I have never seen the big deal about Callum Hudson-Odoi. Like for me, not to say that he's not good, but I've been waiting. I've always said to you, Matisse, I'm waiting to see what it's about. I'm waiting to see what Bayern Munich wanted. But you know what? In the last few games, I know it's everyone's trying to impress the manager, but I'm starting to see the value that what this guy brings. And when I saw the relationship with him at the end, I thought to myself, wow, this guy looks like he's got a great relationship with his team, and he looks like a joy to interview. So that's my thoughts on what I've seen of him so far.
And Julian, I mean, you got to interview some players afterwards, I know as well. Did you get to interview Tuchel as well, potentially?
Yeah, Tuchel, last night for French TV in French as well. He was happy. I said, so you don't lose it. We're going to practice. I'm going to go to a lot of Chelsea games because of him. I think the one thing that is very important, and I think if there's one, I think there were positives for his time in France, in Paris. But one is that he had to open up. because, no offense to Dortmund or Mainz, but you could be a really good manager there and you focus on your players and on your pitch and on your tactics, no problem. But in Paris, this is more than just a coach. There's media from all around the world, and you have to open up. You have to be a bit more charming, a bit more seducing, a bit more smiley, making few jokes. You can get angry at times, and he certainly was towards the end. But he had to change something because he was still very much a guy a lot about discipline when he was at Dortmund. In Paris and same at Chelsea, you have to open up. You have to be, especially with tabloid newspapers or all the media that you have here in England. You have to do something a bit different. And certainly, I think his time in France has really, really helped him to be the personality that we see now. And you're right, that press conference before the Spurs game, especially considering there was a lot of questions about Mourinho, about Chelsea. Mourinho sort of trolling him a little bit, saying, well, it's easy to win at Chelsea. Look, I did it first year. Conte did it first year. Ancelotti did it in his first year. So, putting that sort of pressure, which you expected. And I thought Tuchel was amazing in his press conference. And again, this is a side of him that really grew in Paris when he had to open up, because this was suddenly the audience was worldwide, not just in Germany like it was before. And again, it's no offense to Dortmund, but this is not the same scale in terms of exposure.
He's more exposed. Yeah.
And for Chelsea, it's exactly the same. And even more, I would say, the Premier League compared to Ligue 1, although it's PSG, is a bit different. But even more at Chelsea, he knows that he has to be more open, give a bit more of himself about his private life. And, that question about, what do you drink a beer after games? He must have felt like, what? Well, what's got to do with the game? But no, he had to answer, find a joke, a funny way of answering it. And I think this is where he's really good at now.
Yeah, and to be honest, it is important that he strikes that relationship with the British media, because there's been managers in the past, maybe Maurizio Sarri, that couldn't strike that relationship, and they weren't best pleased with him, when they wrote about him potentially in their articles and whatnot. So it is important that when you take on a job like Chelsea in the headlines, you have to make a rapport with the media. You have to make a rapport with the fans as well when they come back into the stadium. We know how important a part they play as well. But from a charismatic point of view, I think he's been brilliant so far. I think he's been to the point. He definitely has stood up for himself as well. When they asked him about Dele Alli, he said, "Oh, you're at the wrong press conference." And obviously he's had a joke as well, the gin and tonic quote as well. So I think he's been brilliant in that regard. We've got a few super chats coming in here, so guys, I'll definitely go through these as well. How high is Pulisic's ceiling, as high as Eden Hazard's? I mean, that's a whole topic in itself in terms of young players. Tuchel's known for developing young players. Pulisic, he managed at Dortmund, and he used in a couple of different, positions as well in different systems. Which young players at Chelsea do you think are going to flourish under Tuchel? Because obviously Billy Gilmour as well is another player who didn't go out on loan. He stayed. People have likened him to maybe Marco Verratti in that role potentially. But obviously he's got seniors to displace. So.
Yeah, from what I was told, he was really impressed with Billy Gilmour. Of all the players, and before, when he accepted the job and the days before, he watched a lot of games. But obviously, Gilmour hasn't played really much this season because of the bad injuries that he had last year. But really, really impressed. I think Jorginho, because of the experience, as you mentioned, for a lot of reasons, is clearly ahead of Gilmour. But I think Gilmour will have some game time and he will be able to show. And if he keeps learning, especially from Jorginho in the role that Jorginho is playing at, I think there's certainly a future under Tuchel at the club for him, no doubt at all. For Pulisic, I have to say, I've been surprised that Pulisic hadn't started any of the 3 games so far. Yeah, I was really surprised because they have a really good relationship. He obviously gave him his debut at Dortmund. They worked well together there. And I thought, okay, Pulisic, will play there. Maybe it's because he wanted to see Hudson-Odoi a bit more, considering he knows Pulisic so well. Or maybe so far the way they've played, there was not really room for Pulisic, and we saw him coming on late yesterday. I think Pulisic's ceiling is super high. I'm a huge fan. I don't think in the Premier League right now, and this is a bit like Eden was, but in terms of first touch and second touch, especially the second touch, straight after his first touch, and the speed that he can engineering on the first 2 touches for the first 5 yards is out of this world. I'm not sure there's anyone better than him in the Premier League. I remember the game against City last season where he literally tore them apart by that first touch turn, bam, and it was so quick. It was like bam, bam, and it was like, wow, okay. And I think if he gets a bit more consistent in not losing the ball too much, making the right decision, the key decisions and things like this, I think he can really become outstanding. But I was a bit surprised that he hasn't started yet under Tuchel.
Yeah, he had a great game last year at Anfield. I don't know if you remember, Joel, but obviously we lost the game. But wow, what a performance from Pulisic at Anfield last season. He was, skipping past Joe Gomez and many different Liverpool defenders. Yesterday, his head was down in a move where Reece James was on the overlap, and it was a great opportunity to find him. He didn't pick up his head in time, and that was disappointing. But Joel, in terms of Chelsea youngsters, I know Hudson-Odoi, you wasn't so, sure of him, but surely there's got to be some Cobham propaganda coming from you soon.
Yeah, I mean, come on, everybody knows I'm going to talk negative about the Chelsea players, and then you see me standing next to them in interviews and pictures and doing the whole, so it's the same really. But like I said, I think I'm still waiting on Callum Hudson-Odoi, but the truth is, I have seen more positive signs more than ever. Big Pulisic fan. Let me be honest with you. Like everything what you're saying, Julian, that guy's speed, his touch. I look at him and I think, wow, this guy can be incredible. Especially if you can avoid some of the injury problems that he's picked up of late, and if Chelsea can get into some sort of flow of a run, he is definitely one of the most dangerous players. I mean, when we play against Chelsea, Matisse.
Yeah,
when he came off injured in the FA Cup.
I remember he scored.
We're cheering because he's that dangerous. And I don't know if you know, even though I was taking a mick when we got Odegaard the other day, and I was like, he's better than Gilmour. But the truth, I know it's different positions, but the truth is, Billy Gilmour for me, I've only seen flashes of him playing last season. Was it last season that he was playing when he was given his opportunity? It was last season.
Yeah. He got a few opportunities.
Incredible. Like, honestly.
Roy Keane was waxing lyrical.
Waxing lyrics about, I couldn't believe. But the funny thing is, he wasn't lying. I was just thinking, has Chelsea got these kind of guys in the academy just sitting around? What's
on a conveyor belt?
So he's definitely a guy that I've always got an eye on him to see what's going on. And I would really like to see him given an opportunity because I feel like he's a special talent. And then besides that, even though I take the mick in regards to Kai Havertz, I'm loving his off form at the moment from an Arsenal perspective. Obviously, as a human being, you want to see people do well. But from an Arsenal perspective, it's been great because I thought he was the danger man. When you got him, I thought, you know what, this guy's a serious problem. And he still can be. I think the good thing is with a new manager, they're all in the country at the same time. Werner, Havertz, they know each other well, German. So it's kind of like they're going to be able to go on this journey together. And as long as they give Tuchel what he wants, he's going to be able to get the best out of them as well. So I think you guys have no issues in that area, if I'm to be honest with you. I am, Julian, maybe you can answer this. I've got questions. How do you think the relationship with Thiago Silva is going to go? Because I'm not saying that it went bad before, but did he want an extension and PSG said no? Would that be down to the board? Would that be down to Tuchel? Can you explain that situation?
Yeah, I think it has to be explained. I've talked about it before, and I think maybe there's people have the wrong opinion, but Thomas Tuchel and Thiago Silva were really, really close in Paris. They were literally like, it was a father and son kind of relationship, although they're not too far in terms of age. But Tuchel wanted Thiago Silva to stay, wanted him to have an extension. And the fact that PSG didn't give him one had nothing to do with Tuchel. That was Leonardo and the people at the top. And Tuchel was really disappointed when Thiago left because he wanted him to stay. So there's no hard feelings at all between them two. It's just pure love. And already, they spoke on the phone before even Tuchel accepted the job. I mean, he called Thiago Silva. They were always in touch in the first half of the season, when Frank Lampard was a manager and Tuchel was in Paris. And every time I was speaking to Thiago Silva in the first half of the season, he was always finding a way of bringing Tuchel back into the conversation. I was like, come on, man, you're Chelsea now. This is Chelsea. And yeah, the love that he had for Tuchel was so strong that every time he was like asking me, oh, how's Thomas doing? How's this? I hope he stays, blah, blah, blah. So the love between them and the trust that they have is very, very strong.
Wow. And I heard Buffon as well speaking nothing but great words about him. And it's never left my mind, Matisse, because this is Buffon.
Yeah.
He's worked with he talks about, Tuchel as if, you know what I mean? He's worked with a million different managers and he's the next coming. I think that's very interesting, Julian, as well.
Mm. Good. Gundogan as well spoke very highly of him, and he's worked with Pep and Klopp, so he's definitely highly regarded as well. I want to speak about, obviously, this super chat here is spot on about I Test Merchant saying Tuchel is very generous with explaining his tactical plan. A lot of the players in interviews have come out and really gone into detail about what you spoke about earlier with Hudson-Odoi, and maybe Marcus Alonso, and all these players coming out and really explaining what Tuchel wants to do. Is he purposefully being so public with his tactical plans? We don't really see managers do that very often. Sometimes they play it a bit more coy and they don't speak so much about what they want to do. But he really does let the fans know, and it's quite comforting as a Chelsea fan to know exactly what you're trying to see on the football pitch. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, I think so, because I just think he's really passionate about tactics. There's obviously this story about him and Pep Guardiola going to a restaurant when they were both when they were Bayern and Dortmund manager, and staying there for hours and doing the tactics with the salt and the pepper and the cutlery and all of that. And I really think he's passionate, and I think he would rather talk during his press conferences or with his players about tactics and how you move and the double pivot and the back three and how you build from the back and how your wing backs come inside and how you start your strikers wide and then they come inside, all that kind of stuff, more than mind games with Mourinho or talking about, I don't know, why things went wrong in Paris or why sometimes it's difficult to work, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really him. And again, we go back to the point of just wanting to be a coach, and that's what he loves doing: coaching, tactics, improving players, all of that. And I think if you ask him, and yesterday it's funny because my first question was, and I knew it because I know him so well now, and I said to him, man, I love the positioning of Werner and Hudson-Odoi, and he went, yeah, because I wanted Dyer and Alderweireld not to know what to do. That was his answer. I wanted Dyer and Alderweireld, instead of being so close, to be so far, because that's how far Hudson-Odoi and Werner were, and they were the two players that they were marking. And I thought that was perfect tactically. And he was very, like you said, he was very upfront, telling me the tactics and how he worked, and Mason Mount as a number 10 or forced number 9, and having to play in that space where no one could really pick him up. And that worked so well. And even Lloris, to be fair to Lloris, also said, in the first half, we couldn't get near them. They had so much space. They had so much movement. We were completely lost. And again, I think tactically, Tuchel got his spot on. But yeah, just to go back on your question, Matt, I really like the fact that that's what he loves talking about, and the questions that we need to ask him more than what he drinks or what he eats or that kind of stuff that tabloid newspapers love asking, and I can understand why. But I think he wants to talk about the tactics and explain to people what the plan is. And he doesn't want to reveal any secrets to the opposition or whatever. It's not about that. But it's more, okay, this is my plan. This is what I do. And he does the same with the players, because I think he knows how important it is for Marcos Alonso to know exactly what he has to do and to explain to the players why we play like this is to exploit one of the weaknesses of the opposition. And I think, again, this is really important as a coach.
Fantastic. I couldn't, brilliant to hear that from you, because as a fan, when you get that kind of detail, it's, as I said, it's so reassuring. And I'm sure it's for the players as well. If they've spoken so highly of them already in the first week, saying that we're getting the detail that we need and how we need to approach the game. Jorginho and Kova, knowing that they need to make those progressive vertical passes, they could still even improve in doing so. But I think as time goes on, they're going to start to understand the game even more. I'm hoping to do an hour-long special. Is that okay, Julian? Is that all? Is that all right?
Of course, man. No problem at all.
Yeah, an hour special would be brilliant. Honestly, it's a blessing to do. I want to get into the different systems as well in terms of Tuchel, because we've only seen the 3-4-3, and this is huge for me, because he came in terms of and obviously to improve Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, who we're going to get onto soon as well. But in terms of tactical flexibility, he's able to shift between 3 formations, potentially 3 at the back, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. Obviously, in Paris, he didn't use the 3 at the back so often. He went with the 4-3-3 quite a lot. Dortmund, you saw the 3-4-3 a little bit more, with Pulisic starting where Hudson-Odoi has been playing in recent weeks at the wing-back role. What other systems, do you expect him to go to those other systems, and does it incorporate other new players? How do you expect him to go about, changing this team around as well?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, again, we're going back to that first game against Wolves where he only had one training session behind him, and we were all wondering how is he going to play. And then we saw something completely different to what to what Lampard used to do. And again, this is not criticism of Frank Lampard at all. It's just this is Thomas Tuchel. He watched so many games, so much Chelsea games before taking the job, before that first Wolves game, loads of clips of individual clips of every player, collective clips, the way they build from the back. He asked a lot of questions and etc. And I think that the Wolves tactics and formation and the one against Burnley as well was very much okay against those teams that will play really, really deep and sit back. And we need either Giroud or Abraham to be that focal point. Then you can have those two number 10s behind, and especially that suits Kai Havertz so well. He started against Wolves, not against Burnley, but still, this is the idea. I thought against Spurs yesterday was okay. They're not going to sit back, although they could have, but without Kane, it was very unlikely that they would play purely on the counter-attack. So what can we do? If we stretch them as much as possible, hence the positioning of Werner and Hudson-Odoi, then I think we'd have all that space in midfield for Mason Mount, for Kovačić, who is such a good runner overall, with the ball, without the ball. And then this is where we can create run. And I really think Tuchel has his idea for, how to play a game, but also he looks so much at the opposition and how they will play or how they're supposed to play against you, that he can change and tweaks a little bit there and there to accommodate his team, the Chelsea team, and the players to play against the opposition. And I think this is brilliant. I would not rule out to have Kante, Kovačić, and Jorginho in midfield, and have that three in midfield when this is a game that the battle in midfield will be so strong, which was not really the case yesterday.
Yeah.
I think you could easily see maybe two up front and have Werner playing off Giroud or playing off Abraham. I think he knows, and that's why I think he wanted that job so badly as well, because there's so much flexibility, so many options to do with this squad. It's quite crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, so many players that are very versatile. They can play numerous of different positions. We saw that Kante, Kovačić, Jorginho in midfield three under Sarri as well in terms of a possession-based side going with that. I want to move on to Timo Werner and Kai, because obviously one of Tuchel's massive jobs is that he has to get the best out of those two players, the big marquee signings. Joel, what have you made of Timo Werner? You spoke about Kai Havertz, and obviously you expect him to become a baller and to improve as the time goes on. He's very young. He's only 21 years old. Of course, he's acclimatizing. But Timo Werner's a bit older. What have you made of him? Obviously, he's going for a really rough spell in terms of not getting goals. He missed the penalty as well not so long ago as well. So he's having a tough time. What have you made of Timo Werner this season?
I think confidence is flat on the ground at the moment. It's as simple as that. I don't think he's all of a sudden not a good player, but I think the shock of moving from the German league to the English Premier League for him has been absolutely massive. He said it himself. Every centre-back in the Premier League is big and strong. He said it at some point, and I thought to myself, he's shocked, because I'm sure, physically, our guys are big, man. You come up against, players at Burnley and, it's serious. Do you know where I'm coming from? And I don't think that's always the case in other countries. And obviously, everybody knows the Premier League to be physical, but I think even when you're playing against the leagues, you're gonna have a rough time. And I think he's gonna have to find a way to dig deep and acclimatize to this, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be given forever. We've seen many years ago the likes of Kezman, even the great Andrei Shevchenko, great players. Even I know the likes of Eto'o came near the end of his career, but you have to get with it. If you don't get with it, you're going to be left behind very quickly. And I think as much as he has Tuchel has a relationship with Werner, he's not going to let these players sacrifice his job. This is what you're realizing in the Premier League is every team has got this. There's this Abramovich thing now. You don't win in 3 or 4 games, you're being judged horrendously. It was never like that in the Premier League before. But now the pressure is coming like Spain now. So as much as you want this relationship and you want to trust in these players, is that player worth risking your job? No, they're not. So the number one thing he has to do, he has to really get with it. I think physically he looks okay. I don't look at him and I think there's a problem physically. I think it's a confidence thing. And I think in general, the players around him as well, if they start to play well, I think that's going to help him as well. So, but he needs to sort it out. That's what he needs to do. Yeah,
Timo Werner is definitely a player under Frank I was extremely worried about in terms of are we going to utilize him correctly. Of course, he was missing big chances and really good opportunities to score on goal, and he wasn't putting them away, and the confidence was low. But I always felt like him on the left wing, he was a bit deeper as well in his average position, and you'd hope as well. Was he really being utilised? He's a final third player. He's really 1-2 touches and then shoot, not running in behind, not to be deep, not to be 1v1 dribbling, all these things. Julian, what in terms of how do you think he's going to get the best out of, let's say, Kai Havertz first, because very versatile player, as we saw at Bayer Leverkusen. He's able to play a numerous of positions. We saw him play false 9. After lockdown, we saw him play right wing, number 10, and he has similar goal contributions from all positions. He seems to be very well balanced, level-headed in terms of that. Spoken very highly of in Germany. He picked up a knock before the game, so obviously it wasn't included. But how do you expect him to be used as a Chelsea player under Tuchel?
I think as a second striker, as a number 10 is his best position. I don't want to see him coming deep, too deep. Certainly, it would not work in that team anyway, because of Jorginho's position and in the way they build up the play. I think he would be in the way more than anything else. But certainly, what we saw against Wolves again, that this is how really they got the best out of him at Leverkusen, is that the sort of 3-4-3 formation. Where when he plays as a 10 with 2 10s behind a striker and that box in midfield with the 2 central midfielders, I think this is where it could be good, because he can create, and his passing and his vision is fantastic. So he could give you the assist, but he can also come run into the box. He can score. He's really good in the air. His left foot is amazing, and I think this is very much the idea for Tuchel is, okay, where can we use him best? And I think he knows that as a second striker, or sort of one of 2 10s if you want, will probably be the best, because the pace is not there. However, he plays between the line. He's such an intelligent player that I think there's something there to exploit. But he has to play higher on the pitch than sometimes we saw him under Lampard, and certainly not wide. I don't think wide in the Premier League in this Chelsea team would work anywhere for him.
Yeah, and I know you're a big fan of Giroud as well. Obviously, fantastic for France. The link-up play, the way that he's able to almost vacuum in vertical passes and then give it to the wingers, Mbappe, Griezmann, and all these players. The link-up play has always been a strong point of his. I expected him to be used under Frank as this guy that, again, vacuums the ball, takes it in, and then gives it to a Werner in behind and is able to link up play in that way. But he has that combination hasn't been utilised so often as well. What do you make of Giroud's future as well? Because obviously he's been linked with moves away from the club as well for the last couple of years, just due to game time and wanting to make the Euro squad, and with Didier Deschamps and all these things. And obviously Werner's combination, do you see anything there possibly as well?
Yeah, just on Werner quickly. I think yesterday this is the best position. I saw him under Lampard, and he was stuck onto the touchline as a left winger, and I'm like, come on, this is not Timo Werner, please. This was a waste of his talent. Yesterday, what we saw is, okay, you can be wide and start wide, but you make those runs inside, you come inside, exactly what he used to do at Leipzig. And I think this is the way forward. And I thought we saw a much better Timo Werner. Okay, the end product, and there's still some work to be done there, but certainly I felt he was better yesterday than what we saw in recent weeks and before the arrival of Tuchel. For Olivier, I mean, huge friend of mine, so I will always be biased anyway. I think he can do a job in certain games where you're going to have a lot of the ball and you're going to play again against a team that sit back and stay in their own half, and then crossing the ball. He's so efficient in the air, on the floor, on those crosses. He reads those crosses far better than Tammy Abraham, for example, or even Timo Werner. There's no doubt. That's where Abraham has to work a lot on. He's reading the crossing and being in that position, making the runs that Cavani does or that Giroud does, to get at the end of those crosses before your defender. But I think Olivier will have his chance in some games, particular games. But the fact that he hasn't played much at all in those first 3 Tuchel games is a bit worrying, I guess. And I don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of the season. He's obviously out of contract in the summer. I think he will leave the club, but he needs to play to go into the Euros with France at the best of his fitness form, especially. And for France, he's a worry if he doesn't play much between now and the end of the season.
What does he have to do there, Julien? This guy just, like.
You didn't treat him that well at Arsenal, did you, Joel?
Yeah, we didn't treat him that well. But, I didn't appreciate him until I saw him wearing the blue shirt. And now, what does he have to do? He's proved that he is actually an exceptional player. He's better than what we thought.
I think Tuchel will use him because he will be very handy in some games, but maybe so far, because all this is new to Tuchel still, he's still assessing the squad, the qualities and the sort of flows of every player, what they can do, what they can't do. Again, who do you play against? Okay, for this game and this game, it's better if I use so and so. I don't know. I think he will have his time. The story of his life, and I think he deserves so much credit for, fighting against the odds all the time and proving people wrong. And when you thought he was finished, when you thought people are not going to use him, he comes back from nothing, rising again and being there, being decisive, having those goals. And I think in the year 2020, the calendar year, he was the top goal scorer. The goal per minute ratio is quite incredible. And you think, wow, okay. And of course, he's not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that. And he can't score goals like Leo Messi or like Brazilian Ronaldo. I get that. But if you play on his strength,
or Benzema,
he's a good player. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, I test Merchant here with a super chat says a lot of German signings struggle in the Premier League. I mean, that's a statement. I don't know if I agree because Aubameyang, big Arsenal player. I know not having the greatest season, but he obviously came from the Bundesliga and did exceptionally well in terms of his goal scoring. A lot of the people in the chat are saying obviously there's a high line in the Bundesliga, and there's a lot of space in behind, which is obviously true. We've seen Liverpool, exploit high lines with Salah and Mane. What do you think of that statement there? Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Gundogan, has been great. Has been Man City one of best players this season. You could see Robin Koch, for example, at Leeds, who was really good last year in the Bundesliga, struggling a bit more this year. Certainly to adapt. I think the intensity is slightly different than the one you see in the Bundesliga, and certainly in the Bundesliga, they attack all the time. That's what they do pretty much. All of them. This is what they do, and in the Premier League, it's a bit more structured. It's a little bit different, and I think you need time to adapt. But I would not say that a lot of German signing really struggle in the Premier League. We see that with Havertz and Werner. Again, we've explained why, and we also explained why things could get quickly much better for them. But you always have to adapt anyway. When you change leagues, it's very hard, very, very rare to see someone just switching from one league to another, not even just Bundesliga to Premier League, but all leagues, and just be there and ready to go and be at their best in the new league that they arrived in. So you always need a bit of time, and especially I think for Chelsea, and if you just take Werner and Havertz, everything was so different. And again, I'm not sure Frank Lampard put them both in the right environment to succeed straight away.
Yeah. Also, obviously, to the last segment of the show, the guys have been throwing in questions about transfer news, and obviously it's always exciting, and I have to cater to that for the last part of the show for the people in the chat. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Nearly 750 of you live with us. I know January's over, but obviously the summer, he's on an 18-month contract, so it's very hard to know just how much say he's going to have. We know Mourinho definitely gets a lot of, the control in terms of ins and outs at Chelsea. There's definitely a hierarchy to answer to. He's not going to be able to just buy whoever he wants. But, if he does, meet his targets, which I personally think he will. I think he's, definitely an upgrade in terms of the tactical knowledge he's bringing to the club and everything. And the 18-month contract hopefully could get extended if everything goes well. In terms of transfers, Chelsea was linked with Marquinhos at PSG, who played this DM role a lot of the time, but also played centre-back as well with Thiago Silva, as we saw in the Champions League run. So he played a couple of positions, but in that DM role, he obviously moved into the back to pick up the ball, and it became a back three at times. Obviously, if Chelsea are playing a back three, you wouldn't really need that. But in terms of just the player overall as a defender, do you think Chelsea or Tuchel would be interested in bringing some of his old players into this Chelsea team?
As a PSG fan, just leave Marquinhos alone, okay? We don't need you to come and try to steal him from us. It's fine. I think the priority would be a centre-back. And what would be really funny if Thomas Tuchel came to Peter Cech and Marina Granovskaya and Scott McLaughlin and said, I want Declan Rice. That would be a real joke, because obviously that's what Lampard wanted, and he pushed and he pushed, and in the end, maybe that was one of the reasons why he's not there anymore. I don't think Thomas Tuchel is a huge, I don't know, but I would be surprised. However, I think he knows that you need another centre-back there, because as we said, Azpilicueta, as good as he's been so far, is getting older, and you could certainly find an upgrade on him. Maybe not in terms of intelligence, but in terms of physicality, youth, and etc. So I think Dayot Upamecano, for example, if you can derailed his move to Bayern and sign him for Chelsea, I think would be a huge signing for Chelsea, because he's so comfortable as a back four, in a back three, as a sweeper, as a non-sweeper centre back. He's so talented that someone like that, I think, would be an upgrade and would be something that Tuchel, I think, in the summer is looking for, would be another centre back. I think for the rest, you're pretty loaded in every position. For me, really, is centre back is the position where you need an upgrade and strengthening in the summer.
A few youngsters coming up as well. Chelsea are, in terms of centre backs, they're quite stacked, but obviously very young players in terms of Mark Gahey at Swansea,
Mark
Ethan
Gahey,
Ampadu at Sheffield United, both playing a back three, potentially could get promoted. We know how much he likes to use youth. So it'll be interesting to see if he uses those players. The one final guy, which I know Joel loves, Erling Haaland. This is my final guy I have to mention. What are the chances of him? Because obviously Chelsea, we're saying in terms of lacking strikers and being efficient up front, do you think there's any possibility? Obviously, Raiola is the agent.
Yeah, so that was the other position I would mention, because Giroud, as we said, is gonna leave the club. It's very likely. I don't think they will give him an extension, and I'm not sure he will take it anyway. So then you'll have Tammy Abraham, and as we said, Timo Werner, who's not really the pure striker as per se. So do you go and get out? I mean, I think if you need one and you want one, there's only one right now. The problem is this one is the same one for everyone. You know, you could Man City, Aguero is going to leave. If they go for one striker, it will be Erling Haaland. If you're Bayern Munich and you're already thinking of the post-Lewandowski era, which will arrive soon now, because again, he's going to be 33. Again, Erling Haaland is your guy. If you're PSG and Kylian Mbappe leaves for whatever reason or doesn't extend his contract and you need another striker / forward, whatever, the one is Erling Haaland. So I don't think Chelsea will be the only one. If really they're the one that they want to go for, it will cost you a lot of money, of course. I'm not sure right now in his head and in his father's head and in Mino Raiola's head, this summer is the right time to leave Dortmund. One, because he's still learning and he's still so young. And two, there's certainly not as much money for him right now on the market than there would be maybe in a year's time or 2 years' time, where this pandemic is over, where clubs have more money to spend and all of that. So for all those reasons, I'm still a bit skeptical of him leaving Dortmund to start with anyway. And two, not really sure if Chelsea could win that race, if there was a race ahead of City and maybe PSG and maybe Bayern Munich and maybe, I don't know, Real Madrid or Barcelona or whoever else. But really, if you go for a striker this summer and you have a go at Erling Haaland, because I don't think right now there's anyone better. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Guys, what a beautiful way to end. Do you know what I mean? Continue to dream about Haaland if you want, if you wish. You never know what can happen.
You never
keep
know.
Those dreams alive.
Matt, I just want, sorry, I know you're getting ready to wrap up, but I just wanted Julian to know how much love he's getting. Julian, have you got the comments on by any chance? Have you had them on? I don't think you have you?
No, sorry, guys.
Julian,
This is on you to me. This is on you. You know, I'm old. I'm not like you.
So let me tell you something. Since we started, Julian, it is Julian's on. I can't believe this. Two of my favorite, and we're not just saying this. Even I'm surprised. I know you're.
Thank you, guys.
The amount of love that's been going in the chats that I knew you couldn't see because you're on private chat at the moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them up now.
In comments, and they've been on since 10 a.m. You know, you can only see since 10:44, but since 10 a.m. it's been going insane. And if you ever think, Julian, that there's people out there that don't appreciate your work, or you don't know what's going on, you come and get your booster over here.
Yeah. I'm coming back anytime. Anytime, Matt, you want me, I'm here. No problem.
Yeah, I've been so surprised at the love, and thank you very much for you guys showing the love to Julian. It's really good to make our guests feel happy. Look at all these, Julian. It's been
amazing. Thank you so much, everyone.
It's been non-stop for the last hour, non-stop.
Yeah, honestly.
So,
honestly,
guys,
I thought you could see it. Oh, it's incredible. Honestly,
it's incredible.
Thank you so much.
You need to do the massive plugs as well, though. Team.
100%. Listen, Julian, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor. Honestly, I've followed you on ESPN, all your shows on there when you was doing them, and then obviously now Gab Marcotti, the podcast that you have with him, the reporting on BT Sport, everything. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure the people know where to find you.
Yeah.
But please tell them anyway if there's anything coming up, and obviously let them know about the podcast and everything.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Thank you for having me, Matt, and Joel as well for helping me out. This is all new to me, but I love it. And if I can talk about football all day, So if anytime you want me again, I'll be delighted. I'm on Twitter at Laurens Julien, and I'm on Instagram as well, Julien _ Laurens. I try to post as much about the games I go to, about football in general, about funny things about football, all of that. This is what I love doing. So thank you so much for having me. It was a great hour. It went in so quickly, man. I can't believe it. And yeah, I'll try to respond to everybody who sends messages and stuff. So I will try to do that. And Matt, I think you're doing great. Joel speaks so highly of you, man. Keep doing what you do. Keep believing, because you're absolutely smashing it.
Thank you very much. Cheeky41 is my IG as well, because we're regrowing it. I've got my personal one, but we're doing Cheeky Sport 1 because the other one got taken down. All those followers have gone, but it's cool. We're going to get them back. So Cheeky Sport 1 on IG. Please give it a follow. We've got some really good content on there. And of course, Matisse is part of it as well. So you'll get to see his reactions on there, here and there as well. So guys, follow it.
Yeah, the Instagram is back. Cheeky Sport is back on the IG. You see what I'm saying? Guys, the links will be in the description after this stream is finished processing. Obviously, make sure you follow Julian. Make sure you follow Joel Beya 1. Is it Joel Beya 1, isn't it, on Instagram?
Joel Beya 1,
100%, exactly. Yeah. Big time presenter, big boy presenter. You see what I'm saying? Make sure you follow. The links will be in the description. And people, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, it's been an honor. And this is really another way of thanking you guys for the growth on the channel. Nearly at 10,000 subscribers. You guys have been killing it. Really helping me out in terms of helping the YouTube channel grow. So we're hopefully bringing the best content to you. We'll see you tomorrow for the Sheffield United preview, people. See you later in a bit.